Hi, I'm Whitney Espich, the CEO of the MIT Alumni Association, and I hope you enjoy this digital production created for alumni and friends like you.
Welcome to MIT's Faculty Forum Online. I'm Joe McGonigal, Alumni Education Director at MIT, and I'll serve as moderator today. Our broadcast is sponsored in part by MIT Federal Credit Union and MIT Professional Education. A reminder that after we hear from today's speakers, we'll field your questions for them. Please use the Q&A feature on your Zoom toolbar to ask them, and we'll get to as many as time allows. Today, we are spotlighting the work of MIT's D-Lab, whose mission is to work with people around the world to develop and advance collaborative approaches and practical solutions to global poverty challenges. We hope you leave today's session with a better appreciation of the participatory design of D-Lab projects, its researchers' approach to spawning more inclusive business, or even better connections to potential partners for your own business interests. Meet our speakers. We have Amanda Epting, Inclusive Business Manager at D-Lab, and Cher Vogel, Global Trainings Manager at D-Lab. Both speakers are on the faculty of two upcoming live virtual courses produced by MIT D-Lab and MIT Professional Education to be offered this summer. And we'll post links to those courses at the end of the session. I'll also post a link to their full bios in the chat now. Welcome, Cher and Amanda.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe. And welcome to everyone on the line or watching later. Perhaps one day we'll meet in person. But for now, we're going to go ahead and share our presentation. So the focus of today's webinar is reimagining inclusion and innovation in global development. So as Joe mentioned, it's both myself and Amanda that are on the call, but as you can see, I have some other friends behind me to remind us that a lot of the work that you're going to see today is in representation of a global network of communities that we've been working with for the past 15 years or so. So during this webinar, we'll talk about what is D-Lab, what is participatory design, what is inclusive business, and then we're actually going to have some time for Q&A and I, as we call it, so question, answer, and any ideas you might have. So we'll stick on the call for that. But before that, we'd like to get to know more about you. So even though we can't see you, we would love to invite you to participate with us. So for those of you who are familiar, we're going to use a tool called Mentimeter. If you are not familiar, can you open up your browser or go to your phone and type in www.menti.com that you see here and use this code right here. When you type in this code, you should see a question that pops up. And the first question is, where are you joining us from today? And as people answer, yes, thank you, New York. We should see a nice population begin to spread. Baltimore, welcome. Boston, great. We'll wait a few more minutes. Randolph, Canada, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Washington, D.C., my home area. Glad to have you on the call. Concord, Arlington, Virginia. That's great. Okay. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay. To honor your time, I'm going to move us to the next question. Looks like we got a diverse spread. A lot of folks from Washington, D.C. Wonderful. New York City looks to be second. We have Berkeley, California, waking up to be with us. So good morning and thank you for being here. So the next question that will pop up for you is, we'd like to know what sector best describes the one that you work in currently. So design or engineering, international development, humanitarian aid, business and finance, government, education, or other. I know many of us are working in perhaps many sectors here, but just to get a sense of who is on the call. Let's see our dots populate. We can imagine that we're all in person together. When we do this in person, we actually have the room located, we have the spots located in different areas, and then we can actually see people move. So we can imagine that we're seeing each other move. Okay, it looks like we have the majority from international development and education, but we do have some folks in engineering, government, business and finance, and other. And I imagine there's some more folks who are going to be watching this afterwards. So it's good to see that we have a spread here on the line. Great. Our next question that is most helpful for us as we kick off to share more. Have you heard about D-Lab prior to this webinar? Yes, no, or I'm not sure. Okay. Good to see we have some D-Lab friends on the call. Welcome. Okay. So it looks like so far, at least in response to this, a majority have heard of D-Lab, but there are some folks who have not. So we are going to briefly talk about what D-Lab is. And for those of you who are familiar with D-Lab, feel free to chime in at any time and share more of some of your favorite parts as we get to our Q&A especially. Okay, so it's good to see a little bit of who else is on the call. So for those of you who said, I don't know what D-Lab is, or I'm not sure, what is MIT D-Lab? Well, when you say MIT as an alumni, I'm sure many people have a lot of different notions that come to their mind, whether that's robotics or solar panel cars, or maybe aerospace engineering and some high-tech innovation. But as we all know, there is another side to MIT as well. There's a whole other side that's working with Indigenous communities and local communities across the globe with the diverse arrangement of stakeholders and variety of stakeholders to talk about some of the most pressing challenges and utilize locally available resources to co-create solutions that would improve the world together. And that's exactly what MIT is, as Joe mentioned earlier in our mission. Here's our mission statement, that we work with people around the world to develop and advance collaborative approaches and practical solutions to global poverty challenges. We do that through three main pillars of work. Our first, of course, is our classes. Some of you may be familiar with our classes. Maybe we have some alumni on the call today, and if so, welcome. We offer a variety of classes from design to water health and sanitation, energy, looking at different topics across design and development in a very practical, hands-on way, and giving our students exposure not only to the design process, but how to work effectively with communities cross-culturally. And they actually have a hands-on project that they work on throughout the semester. Our second pillar is our research pillar. This originally began looking at more technical research, such as how can you improve cook stoves and decrease the emission from cook stoves, to vegetable cooling systems, and now has expanded into more social research as well, including what is local innovation and what are the mechanisms and the actors and factors that are necessary to enable that innovation to thrive more long-term. And our third pillar, which is where Amanda's work and my work falls, is in this innovation practice bucket. So this encompasses a lot of our work with community partners, our global workshops, and a variety of other programs. We've worked in a variety of different sectors, from agriculture to humanitarian innovation, over the past 14 years or so, and a lot of our work has spanned across Latin America, Africa, and Southeast Asia. We would be remiss if we did not mention the network that was founded and catalyzed out of D-Lab, that is now continuing all on its own, is the International Development Innovation Network. And this is a group of 1,000 different people from across Latin America, Africa, and Southeast Asia who have participated in one of our IDDS, which is our International Development Design Summits that we've hosted together across many different countries over many different years. Still we're working with some of the communities in a variety of different locations. So a lot of the work that you see is also in partnership with our friends there. So in everything that we do, we're looking at this question: how might we design a more equitable world? And originally for D-Lab in our founding days, that began looking at, in terms of products, how can we improve the products and make them more equitable, and giving people opportunities to create their own products. Its sense has expanded to looking at services as well. And now we even have some research out in terms of how do you build more equitable systems, all of which we talk more about in our inclusive innovation course. So for us, when we talk about defining impact, as I'm sure those of you who work in education here on the line, you can relate to this. Defining impact for us, as our founder, Amy Smith, has said, it's not just about the product of innovation, but it is the process of innovation, especially since our primary role is as an education institution. Although sometimes people may see our work and think we're an NGO or a design firm, but we are primarily education institution. So we're looking at sharing the process with everyone. So then the question is, what is your process? What's your approach? For us, our approach is something we call participatory design. Participatory design is an umbrella term of several different approaches, design approaches that actively involve the people being served to ensure that the design product or service meets their needs. Now, for those of you who are here from design or engineering background, you know that all design involves the user to some extent at one point in the process or another. But the question is, when and how do you most effectively engage your user in that design process? Because it can be costly. And that brings us to what are some of the challenges of why people normally don't engage users in the design process. We could even think for ourselves, when we want to engage our own users in our own design process, why wouldn't we? Well, typically, one of the biggest hindrances is the amount of time and resources it takes, both through materials and human resources. It takes a lot of time and resources to effectively prepare and plan and engage people. But this doesn't need to limit us. It just means we have to plan appropriately. The amount of time and resources ultimately is because of these two bullet points here. There's a variety of different power dynamics that one faces along the way. And there's the design process, as we all know, is unpredictable. And so there's a lot of expectation management that has to happen. In terms of power dynamics, there's a variety, everything from cultural differences, language barriers, socioeconomic differences. And for us, whenever we're working in our co-design summits, we always make sure we not only have a facilitator for the design process, but also to mitigate some of these power dynamics. And so it's not impossible, but it does take a large amount of time and resources to plan and prepare for. So usually people choose not to engage simply out of the sheer fact of how much time it takes. So then why would somebody choose to engage participants, engage users to participate in a design process with them, whether they're designing a product or a technology or a system of some kind? Why would they invite somebody to participate with them? Well, research has shown us that it leads to better quality products or services that are more responsive to the needs. It also can lead to higher adoption rates. As you could imagine, you're designing for your own needs, and so you're more likely to use what you created because you know your needs and you know what you're creating. And it also strengthens the agency and builds confidence of the users. And so they're not only using the product, but they're also using that design process to solve solutions over time. Some have even said that this should actually be a standard for socially responsible innovation, is to integrate, is to effectively take the time to effectively engage participants in your design process or users in your design process. So again, the question keeps coming back to how and when do you do that? We go over this much more fully in our inclusive innovation course. This is mostly what the course focuses on, is the very tactical steps of how do you do this. For now, we'll just introduce the basic framework to you to give you a sense of what of how we like to talk about it at D-Lab and how we divide our work. Each of these three types of participatory design are useful for different cases. Neither one is better or worse than the other. Each come with a list of pros and cons. And so it's effective to know what our options are before we begin to choose one. And so we'll review each one here. So the first is what we call our design for users, which you might see in literature referred to as user-centered design. So if you imagine these red icons as the designers and the yellow icons as the users, this is where your designers are engaging users mainly at the beginning and the end of the design process. So perhaps in gathering information about what some of their challenges are, and then at the end of the process in terms of getting feedback on the solution that was created. One big pro of this approach is that if you need something very technical, very quick, this would be a great approach, and most tend to engage it for that reason. The biggest con of this approach is that a lot of assumptions get made along the way. There's a lot that can happen between point A and point Z. And so that depending on those assumptions, that assumption could lead to the non-use of that product or service. And so in the long run, perhaps maybe one of the other solutions may be your best bet. Tough to tell in the line of innovation, but we do talk about that more in the course. The second approach that we use, the second type of participatory design, is what we call our design with users. So in the literature, you'll see this referred to as co-design. For us, this is where we actually gather users and designers together for 2 to 4 weeks at our co-design summits or International Development Design Summits. And we bring everyone together, walk them through the design process, and they frame the challenge together. They come up with ideas together. They select the idea together. And then they co-create it together. And so the biggest pro of this approach is that it's extremely inclusive. You're getting a variety of perspectives and input, and these are complex challenges that require complex solutions. And so we're getting in a diverse perspectives coming in. And so the solution is much more sustainable coming out. But the biggest con, as you could imagine, is, again, as we were mentioning earlier, is the amount of time and materials and resources that you could imagine go into this. For us, it takes 9 to 12 months worth of work with each type of stakeholder. Usually we'll have folks from government, NGO, corporate, community members, depending on what the challenge is. And so having to work with each of those stakeholder groups so that they understand why their presence is important. And then also making sure that power dynamics are mitigated in such a way that everybody can effectively participate as they would like to do. So it does take time, but the output of that is then this beautiful, very eclectic, very diverse network that can actually carry solutions further than it would have been before. And our last approach that we do engage, and I realize I didn't mention that with our design for users, we practice that in our classes. Our design with users, we do practice that at our co-design summits. And this last approach is our design by users, or what you see in the literature called user-generated design. And this we practice in what we call our CCB workshops. So our creative capacity building workshops are very hyper local workshops. It began originally in rural Uganda, but has also been facilitated in the favelas of Sao Paulo and in several other different contexts. So it's applicable anywhere, but the main goal of the workshop is to bring the community together for 1 week, teach the design process. And again, they're coming up with solutions, framing their own problem, designing their own solutions. The difference here is really that the user is coming up with the solution themselves. It's all user driven. And so you can see here how they become the orange icon. So users become the designers in this case, with very little design input or outside input necessarily. One big pro of this approach is that it builds agency, it builds solidarity. We've seen it in our work in Colombia. We've seen it build movements and catalyze people. We're all creative people, but it's been a catalytic movement to provide tools and access to resources and time to actually co-create together as a community. And so it's been powerful in terms of agency and coming up with, if you need a technology who knows better what our needs are than ourselves, there are some solutions that don't need to have a high tech perspective on them. And so this would be the best approach. However, if a high tech innovation is needed, or a higher tech or something with more specific technical skill, design for might be the better approach in that case. The way that we've applied it at D-Lab, we usually begin with the design by users, working with communities, engaging them in the design process. They become comfortable, they participate in the design with process. And then if a solution needs needs more mentorship or more technical skill, it might transition into one of our classes into a design project for design for users. So these are 3 different types of design. Again, there's much more that can be said about that we go over in our course. But I've done a lot of talking. We just want to pause one more time, again, real quick, to go back to our Mentimeter. So let's go ahead and go to the next question. says, what type of design do you practice the most in your work? So whether you're an official designer or engineer, we all are creating something, right? Where we're at of some kind. So looks like in this ranking, most people are practicing design for users. We have some that are practicing design with and some doing design by. And again, I want to caveat this again. I think it's easy after hearing this presentation to think one is better than the other. All three are necessary for different reasons. I will say that with DLab, a lot of our external work does, we do practice design with and design by more, but all three are necessary for different purposes. So, okay, great. We have a lot more design with users on the call. Okay, thank you all. So in closing, if you want to choose an approach, it can be very challenging for those of you who are perhaps in a director management role and having to choose which approach to use when. We have a variety of tools and mechanisms that we cover in this course. This table just kind of summarizes the basics of what I was just mentioning. But one thing that I do want to throw in as a caveat is why we don't use the term human-centered design. We have many friends that work at IDEO, we're big fans, but it began as a branded name. And so we don't use human-centered design for that reason, but also for us, more importantly, it's not specific. It's unclear to us whether that's referring to design for or design with. So for those of you who are familiar with IDEO, human-centered design actually began as more of a design for approach for clients, but actually they've expanded their work through OpenIDEO and working with other partners. So they've actually applied a lot of tools and provide a lot of toolkits so that it's become more of a design with and potentially even into the design by space. So for us, we don't use human-centered design because it's a little unclear in terms of what type of participatory design it might be. And lastly, since humans are not necessarily the only user, it could be trees, animals, computers, others. So we just like to try to keep it a little bit more broad in that sense. And finally, I'll just close by saying, in general, and we go over this in our course in more depth, but in general, the rhythm that we use throughout our work is what we call our DLab design rhythm. It's intentionally simple so that it can be translatable. Again, we're working with many linguistic contexts and many different levels of education. But in everything that we do as we're moving from a challenger opportunity to a solution, we first learn about what is that challenger opportunity, what is available within our reach, and what do we have access to currently. And then we imagine what could we make with what we do have access to. And we imagine together, and then we actually choose one and create it together and create a prototype or a mock-up. We test it with each other. We test it with other people in our community or with other users. We learn more and we continue iterating. So hopefully it's fairly intuitive. We dive more into the class. But this is not only a process that we use in terms of products, but we also use in terms of systems. And so in one sense, we're talking about participatory design, but beyond that, there's many other factors to consider. And so now I'm going to turn it over to Amanda to talk about what is inclusive business and why is it also relevant in this context.
Thank you, Cher. And I should say, in the spirit of participation, we'll be taking the questions at the end, but if you have them, please go ahead and drop them in the chat, in the Q&A box, and then we can devote our attention to them at the end of our time together. So good morning, California. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amanda Epting, as Joe and Cher introduced, and I am the Inclusive Business Manager with DLab. So at this point, you might be asking yourself, what is inclusive business? What does it have to do with participatory design? So we're going to explore that. Next slide, please, Cher. So up to this point, Cher's walked us through a little bit of DLab's model, which many of you are familiar with, which is fantastic, and sharing more about our participatory design methodology, where a central question is, how might we design a more equitable world through the design of products, services, and systems? And I want to kind of reframe it and say, how do we move from designing products, services, and systems that try to meet the needs of all communities and individuals to how might we ensure that those same products are being adopted and disseminated? So, we all know the world is full of wonderful technical inventions or innovations that fail to solve challenges. And in our case, large scale poverty problems. You can design something. It doesn't mean that it is going to be used or it will be getting into the hands of those who need it or be able to access it. So in our effort at DLAB to be able to follow through on our theory of change, we look at what are the barriers to technology adoption and dissemination, as we believe that in order to have an impact, there also needs to be an effort to address these same barriers. So that's why we also at DLAB work on themes such as entrepreneurship, intrapreneurship, and inclusive business, and looking at the systems that undergird and support these efforts. In our time together, I'm just going to walk us through one of these areas. It's my area of background. It's also the subject of an upcoming professional education course, Applied Inclusive Business, and that is inclusive business. So next slide, please. Over the past 35 years, we've seen another approach to international development that's been growing. One that is centered more on the role of the private sector and market approaches to development, less of a model of corporate social responsibility or grants, and more a model of building markets, building businesses, all with a focus of on sustainability and impact. So consider what's on the slide, this opportunity. There are over 4 billion low-income consumers globally who spend up to $5 trillion annually. C.K. Prahalad, a former professor at Harvard, is famous for his work and wrote a book, Fortune at the Bottom of the Pyramid, as well as a lot of articles during his lifetime, that he's quoted as saying, if we stop thinking of the poor as victims or as a burden and start recognizing them as resilient and creative entrepreneurs and value-conscious consumers, a whole world of new opportunity will open up. Next slide. Before I go any further, let me throw out a definition to answer the question of what do I mean when I say inclusive business. So according to the Group of 20, the G20, inclusive business is a private sector approach to providing goods, services, and livelihoods on a commercially viable basis, either at scale or scalable, with people at the base of the pyramid by making them part of the value chain of a company's core business as consumers, suppliers, producers, retailers. So, and I will just say, in this context, base of the pyramid BOP is defined as approximately the 4 billion people I was referencing on the previous slide living on less than $6 to $8 a day. So this is a lot of words. A lot of things are bolded, others are not. What exactly, could inclusive business look like? A couple of companies I note quickly here before I'll dig into some longer examples in a few slides. Ajinomoto and DSM are two food and nutrition companies who are adapting their products to be more nutrient dense foods, infant formula, powdered milk. They're adopting their price and accessibility in order to have a larger impact in the field of public health in a financially sustainable way, in that they're selling these products to people who are interested in buying them. Or another company is Zipline, which started in Rwanda and Ghana, and now I believe I've seen, also is getting involved in the distribution related to COVID-19. They utilize drones to deliver medical supplies, blood to hospitals, clinics, health facilities in contexts where infrastructure can be a challenge. And then the last thing I'll touch on this slide is, where exactly might you position inclusive business in the world of initiatives seeking to advance global development objectives? So if you're looking on the axes of investable and scalable impact for low-resourced individuals, communities, inclusive business is a bit different from corporate social responsibility, the way nonprofits operate, and certainly traditional business as usual. So next slide, please. We're going to go back to the Menti for one last question. Based on what I've shared, what you already know from all of the industries where you're coming from, what could you see as some potential benefits of engaging in inclusive business? And I recognize this is a more open-ended question, so it might take some time to reflect and capture that in a few words. So appealing to many types of learners. Providing opportunity for initiative, creativity, and empowerment, more equitable, more sensible solutions, more sustainable solutions, reaching more people, better meeting the needs of individuals, the base of the pyramid, more creativity. That's what we like to hear. That's great. Improving lives, of course. Yeah, reaching the outcomes that we're aiming for. Great. De-risking the development process, increasing the likelihood of sustainable solutions. Getting back at that sustainability consideration. Yeah, these are all kind of components to it. I think from our experience over the years, kind of the types of organizations that are interested in engaging in inclusive business run the gambit from multinationals to social ventures, large social ventures, nonprofits, government. I think there's increasingly an emphasis or a focus on how to kind of explore development in a market-driven, sustainable way. So thank you. Thank you. If we go back to the slides, please. And the next slide. So far, I've mentioned the need for inclusive business, what it is, what it's not, well, a little bit, provided some examples, provided a definition, and established that there's a pretty big opportunity. The result of this opportunity is that there are increasing number of practitioners, organizations, companies who are interested in exploring this subject. And so there's been a growth of people and companies who are interested in engaging, and they don't necessarily know where to begin. And, this slide outlines, what are three of some of the top challenges that we've seen come up in terms of what people are looking for answers to. So they're looking for, how to design sustainable routes to market, given fragmentation, perhaps informal systems, lacking or challenges in infrastructure, different types of institutions, or maybe a more informal system, how to scale cost effectively, what you do as a pilot, as a prototype is very different and very challenging to be able to grow and scale that pilot into a cost-effective, market-ready product, service, in kind of these fragmented and very heterogeneous markets. So there's a need for capacity building there. And then the last question is how to build resilience. As this year of the pandemic, year plus, has certainly demonstrated, global market systems can be very fragile in the face of shocks. And so building resilient, inclusive business requires designing business models with resilience in mind, investing in local capacity building and taking a systems level approach. And this, I'll touch on in a minute, or these are some themes that we've explored at DLab through a program we used to run, and these are themes that we'll be exploring through our professional education course. I'm trying to kind of begin to explore solutions and considerations for these very complex challenges. So bringing it back to the guiding question of how to address barriers to adoption and dissemination, while many companies and organizations are designing appropriate solutions, they continue to face major challenges in these 3 areas. Next slide, please. As promised, bringing it back to a couple of more concrete examples. And in this context, they are DLAB examples. So one's companies that we have worked with. And I'm going to highlight 2 of them. They both happen to be in Ghana. One is a social venture that was a part of DLAB's Accelerator, the Scale Ups Fellowship, and another is a multinational we collaborated with several years ago. So the social venture here on my left, True Moringa, is an enterprise that connects moringa tree farmers in Ghana with the cosmetic industry. So the company founders recognized that there was an opportunity for farmers to extract value from what they refer to as the miracle tree. And this agricultural product had previously been going to waste, and the company saw an opportunity to use that product to add value and to augment these farmers' livelihoods by connecting them to a lucrative market, the cosmetics industry, both in Ghana and globally. To date, True Moringa has served over 5,000 families. They've advanced their own sustainability objectives, planting over 2 million trees, and estimating that farmers are now earning approximately 4 to 10 times what they had been previously earning in raising other crops. The second example here on my right is when DLAB partnered with a dairy company, also in Ghana, as I mentioned, who was interested in improving recycling systems that involved their products. So packaging, refuse from yogurt, milk, cheese containers, all sorts of things like that, that we produce on a daily basis. So DLAB worked with this company and several others, a local government entity, and some other NGOs to facilitate trainings and participatory design processes to engage informal waste pickers who are pictured in this picture at a grassroots level to try to organize and form a cooperative of waste pickers so as to allow them to create and extract additional value from the collection of waste from this company's products, while also advancing the sustainability objectives of the company in improving their recycling efforts and reducing waste overall. Next slide, please. So I might have alluded to, a program we used to run, or how does DLAB know these things about inclusive business? For about 5 years, DLAB ran a program called the Practical Impact Alliance that was aimed at addressing these challenges of designing sustainable routes to market, building and scaling cost-effective businesses, and building resilience, working with practitioners, believing that we had a role to play in convening industry as a way to engage in social innovation and global development in business. So our model was one that is highlighted here on the slide of co-learning, co-design, and convening. Over the course of the year, PM members engaged in activities led by DLAB, in which they advanced knowledge themes through working groups. They were virtual. We were ahead of the time, participated in an annual gathering at MIT, and built their familiarity with participatory design and community innovation through co-design summits, which Cher had mentioned previously. And if you could just do one more click share. So over these 5 years, through the working groups and just through our engagement with at any one time, kind of 20 companies, NGOs, government entities, social ventures, We are a learning institution, as Cher highlighted. We produced a lot of practitioner-focused content and toolkits. And by practitioners, I mean people who are interested in learning about these themes. That could be anyone. They could work in a variety of sectors, and we certainly worked across sectors from utilities to pharmaceuticals to consumer product. And some of these themes are reflected here on the captures of inclusive recycling, impact metrics, marketing at the base of the pyramid, scaling social ventures, local innovation ecosystems, and partnerships. In 2020, we decided to close that program and have refocused our efforts building on this knowledge and packaging it in a way that we can have a much larger distribution and impact than in a small membership network. And so one of the ways we're doing that is through professional education courses. And if you're interested in learning more about the Practical Impact Alliance model, we wrote a report about these learnings in the spirit of open learning and transparency, which is what we are all about. And you're also very welcome to get in touch with myself directly. So next slide, please. There we go. Okay. We have mentioned we are offering professional education courses. If you are interested in taking away, greater insights than kind of what we just scratched the surface of today, if you're looking for tools, if you're looking for frameworks or opportunities to apply participatory design or the inclusive innovation framework that we have, apply insights related to how do you do business in global markets, given a variety of very different stakeholders and challenges. We are running 2 live virtual, still virtual, hopefully just for the next go round this summer. Inclusive innovation, designing for a better world, and implied inclusive business, scaling technologies in low-income markets. They are half-day, they're operating on a half-day model. We are all very tired of being on Zoom all day, and we bring together a very international constituency, and it's a great opportunity to learn from peers from around the world, and so we do try our best to accommodate a variety of time zones. If you're interested, please get in touch. And Joe, I think, is going to share a little bit more about those courses with you in the chat. And with that, we want to turn it over to the Q&A box and devote some time to fielding any unanswered questions. If you haven't already dropped a question or an idea, please take some time. Feel free to do that and drop it into the Q&A. Cher, I might turn it to you and see if there's anything that has come in, or we can just kind of.
Yes, so I can take the first question, which is, do you work with local governments? And I'll answer, and then I'll let Amanda chime in if she has anything. We do work with local governments more as secondary stakeholders than the primary stakeholder that we're working with, but we have worked with local governments before in Mexico, in Morocco, and a couple other locations. And as we talk about in our course, when we think of an inclusive innovation ecosystem, government is actually a critical role in enabling innovation to thrive. And so regardless of political affiliation, it's a necessary stakeholder. And so we do work with local governments, but we also try to keep ourselves as unbiased as possible. And so we won't necessarily affiliate ourselves with a particular party so that we can create this more thriving ecosystem.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that, another example that I didn't highlight of Inclusive Business Initiative is also in Ghana. We work globally. These are the examples that have risen to mind. It's a food and nutrition company that creates supplements for infant nutrition, who's wanting to, build demand for the product while also advancing outcomes on children's growth, ages 0 to 5. And they have partnered with local government, local health subsidiaries of the local government to try and work and partner with clinics to better kind of disseminate this particular nutrition formula while also building awareness of the product and kind of doing a little bit more of a building capacity and awareness initiative. So, in that way, and same thing with the Inclusive Recycling Initiative, we try to partner with existing entities, and oftentimes those with the networks and the influence is local government.
Mhm.
So this next question, Cher, I'm going to hand to you. You mentioned language barriers. What about cultural barriers? What type of cultural hangouts can get in the way of adoption of our model? Or I'll add to that, how might we overcome those barriers?
Yes, great question. Whoever sent that one in, we go into full depth in the course about this. Yes, there are many cultural barriers. They aren't roadblocks, so it doesn't mean it's a dead end, that the road has to stop there. It just means it's something you have to plan for. And there are several different cultural barriers. So those of you who are familiar with the cultural iceberg, you know that there are things about us we can see and things that we can't. And the differences that might be between either different people or different people groups or different organizations can, depending on where they are in the iceberg, can also indicate the amount of time it'll take to plan around that. So a couple of cultural barriers, things about value of time versus relationship. Some cultures value time more, some value relationship more. So something as basic as when we do our design workshops, do we start on time or do we give a 5-minute leeway or wait for an hour? And these are each things that as we're working with different community partners, we try to understand what the local context is. And even though we're working with folks from, in the case of our International Development Design Summits, we're working with folks from all across the globe. We have to decide what is kind of the time rule that we want to go with to enable the workshop to continue. Sometimes we'll set that as like a 5-minute grace period, something like that. I would say that those might be some of the easier cultural barriers. You get into the more deeper ones, that those of you who are familiar with the iceberg model, you know that there's at kind of the very bottom is our beliefs and our values. And, this could be religious differences, this could be ethical differences. And we try to create environments, and especially as we do our workshops, we try to create environments where even if those values are different, they're all welcomed. And actually innovation thrives, diversity is the birthplace of innovation, so is necessity. And so we actually try to invite those differing views and values as much as possible. And then we have ways in which we help people bring those both together to create something new out of that, and try to take the best of both of those approaches. There's a lot more to be said on the cultural barriers and how we overcome them. But I would say we do a lot of research, a lot of talking with people, and we do a lot of training with our students on how to work effectively within a given cultural environment to be respectful of wherever we are and whoever we're working with. So good question.
Yeah. I'm going to field the next one, talking about women-led projects and whether this is a priority for DLAB. And maybe Cher, if you want to jump in and add something about the work that you and Libby are doing in Columbia. So yes, DLAB, as Cher outlined, we have our courses, we have our research, we have kind of where those two come together in our innovation practice. So in our courses, we have a gender and development course led by our colleague, Libby McDonald and Sally Hall-Sander. I'm not remembering her last name correctly. She's a faculty at MIT somewhere else. And they lead that once a year, talking about particular, looking at gender frameworks. And then, all of our instructors at DLAB, then build those learnings and the students into their own research projects and their own projects in country. And so one of those is this project that I'm hoping Cher can give a little bit more context to. Another one, another initiative really explicitly focused on women-led projects is this year through our Scale Ups Fellowship, we have an all-female cohort of entrepreneurs in India. It's regional and gender specific, and it's focused on fundraising, raising VC funds, looking at the gap in terms of women-led rounds to companies. So we're looking a lot through that year. We're looking a lot through how do we explicitly look at women-led businesses, women co-founded businesses, and address challenges around organization, investment readiness, et cetera.
Yeah, and I'll just tag on that, as Amanda mentioned, we have our work in Colombia. We are increasingly having more women-led work, but for those of you working in gender equality space, you know that you need everyone. It takes the work of the community, right? So not just the women, but we have been working in partnership with a project with USAID in Colombia on reducing gender-based violence, and also supporting a small group of artisanal miners to have more equitable pay and opportunities, and reduce the gender-based violence that's happening along the supply chain there. And so we have several other projects. I would say that's kind of our main one right now. That's been done both in person and also now in COVID times, also via WhatsApp.
Yeah. I might combine two of the questions. How are our initiatives funded, and what is the team composition of DLAB? Those might not seemingly externally go together, but in my mind they do. We are a nimble and diverse team of approximately 22 full-time staff. We have researchers and we engage a lot of students and are very proud to do that. So our team, we have a series of instructors. Some are full-time DLAB staff, some are affiliated with other places at the Institute. We have a faculty director who's coming from the engineering department, as is our academics director. So, faculty liaisons to the School of Engineering. And then we have a series of researchers who in the beginning Cher was kind of touching on the variety of themes, studying biomass fuels, evaporative cooling, social science research, innovation ecosystems, local innovation ecosystems, and then a variety of more kind of program specific technical folks, such as myself. Cher kind of cuts across all of us and is our curriculum and trainings expert in our kind of projects, looking at humanitarian innovation, looking at social entrepreneurship, looking at inclusive business, looking at inclusive economies. And how are we funded? So it's a bit of a mix. Some of our funding is coming from the Institute. All of our programmatic work in our research is coming from external funding. So we fundraise in a similar way of NGOs to some degree. We're bringing in funding from government sources, from other foundations or individual donors as well.
Mm-hmm. I'll answer Lisa's question here. It says, do you do any work to address other global pressing problems aside from poverty, such as systemic government corruption and or abuse of human rights? As you can see, the methodology is applicable in a variety of different contexts. So it has been used. We have not led that process, but we have had alumni. I'm thinking of one alumni in particular who graduated from DLAB and has used similar methodology as it relates to systemic government corruption across Latin America. And then there have been other alumni and other partners who use it in relation to abuse of human rights. We have a bucket of work on humanitarian innovation. And so while the forward goal is not to address the abuse of human rights, that becomes a a topic as we're doing design workshops with displaced peoples, both in Uganda and Athens, Greece. And so it's a topic that we address, but it's mostly led by, it's not necessarily our focus, but we have had people who learn the approach and then take it as other focus. I'll also mention on that note that at our professional education course last year, we had members from Oxfam and UN who ended up applying these methods to challenges such as those as well. So it is applicable, we just haven't led those processes.
And then I'll kick off the question of what research at MIT do we overlap with? What research departments do you wish you collaborated more with? So we do quite a bit with mechanical engineering, given our affiliation through our faculty directors, and given our work with energy. We also have an instructor, Susan Murcott, who is looking at water. We do quite a bit with Tata and some other initiatives kind of looking more within the energy sector. In terms of kind of our social entrepreneurship and inclusive business work, for our professional education course, we are partnering with Sloan and have one professor or lecturer who's focused on sustainability, and one faculty member who is both in the School of Engineering and also within the faculty of Sloan, focused on supply chain. And within our social entrepreneurship work and our Scale Ups Fellowship, we are partnering with those who are looking at impact investing, who are looking at social ventures, or building businesses with an emphasis both on profit and impact. So we tend to do some work with them, and I think kind of would like to, particularly for the Scale Ups Fellowship, advance how we might improve that connection to really benefit and advance the ventures which our Scale Ups Fellows are leading, and many of which are founded by MIT alums. So Cher, I don't know if you have anything else you want to add to research places that we currently work with or want to work with more.
Yeah, and so I think we mentioned already kind of a main department is mechanical engineering. I would say apart from that, as in addition to what Amanda's also saying, is that we've actually partnered with a lot of universities across the globe in the places that we've worked with, and we're currently looking to partner with a couple of a university in Guatemala. We have some in Colombia that we've worked with before, Mexico, Australia, even. There's a whole Southeast Asian network of universities who are looking to see how can we work more effectively with communities and addressing that question. University in Pakistan. So, and also across East Africa as well. And so there's a variety of research departments in different universities across the globe that we've worked with from time to time on different projects and different research investigations. Our local innovation research has partnered as well with several different universities. And you can find more of that work on our local innovation page at the MIT web or the DLab website. I would also just add to what Amanda said, and work coming out of Sloan, such as, the fifth discipline, a lot of Otto Scharmer's work, U-Presencing, has been very influential as well for a lot of our participatory design pieces, as the thinking aligns very well. For those of you who are familiar with it, that there's a lot of synergy there. So if I had more time, or if we had more time, I think that would be who we would want to be working with. So we've done some here and there, but I think it would always be nice to do more. Great.
There are two more questions I've seen come in. Cher, do you want to field either of those?
Sure. So maybe Amanda, you can answer this too. Have you worked with social entrepreneurs in closed or closing societies?
I will say with confidence that I am not entirely sure of kind of, the societies or what closed or closing you're kind of referring to in this context. We are working in India this year, kind of looking at of all locally founded or local founders. So, you know, women who are coming with their business ideas from their context. And I will say, like, the cohort that we had last year is all focused, also is East Africa focused all entirely also on local founders. So some of these kind of challenges is related to cultural and societal, you know, will come up in the context of who our entrepreneurs are. But again, I would probably need a little bit more clarification to best answer that question. And do we have domestic initiatives? In the time that I have been with DLAB, I will say no, but Cher has been here for much longer than I have. So I'm going to let you answer that one.
Currently, we do not. In the past, we've done a lot of youth programs, working with local youth in the Cambridge area. We have also partnered with Olin College of Engineering, who does an excellent job through their Affordable Design Entrepreneurship program. And we've had lecturers and instructors cross-lecture with Ben Linder and his team over there, Professor Ben Linder, and they actually have a variety of domestic initiatives that operate with similar processes. So in Mississippi, across Massachusetts, working with different food supplies to domestic shelters. So there's a variety of projects that the methodology has been applied to domestically, but we ourselves have not led those initiatives here yet.
Well, we will encourage alums to stick around and continue asking questions. Cher Vogel, Amanda Epting, thanks so much for joining us today. We did post links to the upcoming courses from MIT Professional Education and DLAB in the chat, the files to them, and link as well. Thank you, MIT alumni, for joining us today. We'll post an archive of this recording on our YouTube channel within a week of airing. And we will encourage any alums to stick around. We'll keep the chat open, of course, after airing. And Cher and Amanda, as you have time, please stick around as well. But thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us. And for more information on how to connect with the MIT Alumni Association, please visit our website.